The story begins with a number so large, it feels abstract. $8 billion. That is the estimated brand name value of Rolex, a company whose name has become synonymous with success after more than 100 years of history. And yet, this $8 billion titan refuses to sell a single watch online. It has no official digital storefront. It has shown no intentions to create one. This is not a glitch in their strategy. It is the entire foundation. You, the modern buyer, live in a world where everything is available at a click. Luxury goods have boomed online, with brands racing to build digital boutiques. Every competitor seems to have embraced the convenience of a cart icon. But Rolex and Patek Philippe, the two elephants of the industry, have outright refused to participate in this revolution for decades. They stand silent while the world scrolls past. The question is not whether they are behind the times. The question is what they understand that the rest of the market has forgotten. Consider the visible world you are shown. You walk into an authorized dealer, or you browse a third-party site hoping for a listing. If you find a watch, you expect a price tag. You expect a transaction. Instead, you often find a waiting list. You find an empty case. You might find a salesperson who asks about your relationship with the brand before they even show you a catalog. Rolex has only 4 retail locations worldwide that operate under its own name. 4. Everywhere else, you are dealing with an intermediary bound by rules you cannot see. The first crack appears when you learn that Rolex is not owned by a publicly traded corporation or a family trust. It is owned by a private foundation. This structure means there are no shareholders demanding quarterly growth, no pressure to chase every revenue stream, no need to capture the digital impulse buyer. The foundation's mandate is different, and that mandate gives Rolex the rare freedom to say no. The brand has shown no intentions to create its own online shop because the structure does not require it. The visible world tells you they are old-fashioned. The invisible world tells you they are insulated. Now, look closer at the friction they have engineered. Rolex is well known for actively targeting online retailers that sell its watches without authorization. They employ serial numbers to trace their suppliers. If a watch appears on a marketplace without approval, they follow the trail back to the source and cut off the supply. This is not passive resistance. It is active enforcement. The message is clear. The internet is not a channel for our goods. If you have ever caught yourself refreshing a page, hoping to see a Submariner in stock, you have already felt the tension they designed. You are not browsing. You are being managed. If that realization unsettles you in the right way, you're beginning to see through the dial. Subscribe so you do not miss the deeper layers we are about to uncover. The forces that shape what you can and cannot buy. And tell us in the comments, does the word managed feel like a description of your experience or a warning? One word will do. The psychological architecture becomes sharper when you examine the secondary market. According to recent data tracked by Watch Charts, an $8,000 Rolex retains a secondary market value of approximately $5,026. That is a significant drop. In any other industry, a brand would panic at that depreciation, scrambling to support resale values or flood the market. Rolex does the opposite. They let the secondary market find its own level, and they do not treat it as a threat. In fact, Rolex itself has acknowledged that the secondary channel is not a competitor to their retail business. They see a used watch owner as a different customer, not a lost sale. This leads to the buried figure of the story. It is not a person. It is the concept of exclusivity as a mechanical device, as precisely engineered as a balance spring. Rolex has not stumbled into this position. They have built a system where availability is a form of gravity. The average retail price for a Rolex among the billion-dollar club is $308,108 or 271,930 Swiss francs. That is not an accident. That is a deliberate positioning in the stratosphere of luxury, where the transaction is secondary to the relationship. Now the paradox intensifies. In 2025, Rolex's estimated wholesale revenue reached 11 billion Swiss francs, approximately $12.3 billion. That is an enormous sum generated almost entirely through physical retail, partnerships, and controlled distribution. They do not need the internet to move product. They need the internet to create the mythology of scarcity. Every empty case, every refused online sale, every unanswered inquiry is a message that this object is not for the casual browser. It is for the person who is willing to enter the system. Consider the sensory shift. When you finally hold a Rolex, you do not click a button. You travel. You wait. You build a rapport. The crown slides under your thumb with a resistance that feels deliberate. The bracelet clicks shut with a sound that is not loud but final. The watch becomes an event, not a purchase. The absence of an online store is not a missing feature. It is a ritual requirement. The brand understands that the path to ownership is part of the value. Here is where the official story begins to crack visibly. Most observers assume that Rolex's offline position is a sign of conservatism, a refusal to adapt. But the numbers tell a different story. In 2025, Rolex's certified pre-owned program hit approximately $590 million, a 204% increase from the prior year. They did not build an online shop for new watches. Instead, they built a program for used watches that operates through authorized dealers. They are not against e-commerce. They are against e-commerce for new inventory. It is a distinction that changes everything. This distinction between new and used, between primary and secondary, is the kind of detail the casual observer misses. Subscribe to join those who look closer, who see the mechanism behind the myth. And in the comments, share a moment when a seemingly small distinction changed how you understood something entirely. Think about the implications. They have created an ecosystem where the primary market is exclusive and difficult, while the certified pre-owned market is growing rapidly. This is not a contradiction, it is a pump. The primary market creates the scarcity and the mythology. The secondary market captures the buyers who are willing to pay for authenticity but cannot or will not navigate the waiting list. Both channels feed each other. Rolex does not compete with its own used program. It relies on it to expand the customer base while protecting the new watch mystique. Now you must confront yourself. If you have ever felt frustrated by the difficulty of buying a Rolex, you are the product of their design. The frustration is not a bug. It is the mechanism that separates the casual consumer from the dedicated collector. The collector who is willing to wait to build a relationship, to enter the physical space and have the conversation, is the customer they want. The browser who wants instant gratification is redirected to the secondary market, which is also controlled. There is no escape from the system. The sensory landscape shifts again. Imagine the smell of a dealer's showroom. Polished brass, leather from the display cases, a faint trace of cleaning solution on the glass. You sit across from a salesperson who asks you questions, not about your credit limit, but about your history. That is the olfactory and kinetic memory they are selling. Not the watch alone, the moment, the recognition, the feeling that you passed a test. No website can replicate that. This brings us to the core of the paradox. Why would a brand that controls every aspect of its distribution allow the secondary market to trade its watches at a significant discount? Because the discount is irrelevant to the primary business model. Rolex sells to dealers at wholesale. Once the watch leaves the authorized channel, the brand has already been paid. The secondary market is a separate universe, one that reinforces the primary allure simply by existing. A watch that trades below retail still carries the name, the prestige, the weight. The secondary market does not devalue Rolex. It amplifies the idea that a Rolex is an object of desire that everyone talks about, even if not everyone can buy. The resolution of this core loop becomes clear. The $8 billion brand does not refuse to sell online because it is behind. It refuses because the act of refusal itself is the most valuable product they make. The scarcity is the asset. The difficulty is the feature. The waiting list is the marketing campaign. Every article written about the empty cases, every forum post about the impossible purchase, every video like this one is free advertising generated by the absence of a buy button. Now the certified pre-owned data reveals a deeper pattern. The 204% increase in that program shows that Rolex is perfectly comfortable capturing value in the later stages of ownership. They let the first buyer pay full retail and experience the ritual. Then they capture the second buyer who wants a verified, authentic piece without the initiation. Both audiences are satisfied. Both audiences are within the system. The brand never loses control. If this pattern of engineered scarcity resonates with you, you already know that the visible world of luxury is a decoy. The dial is not the point. The movement, the mechanism, the deliberate friction, the refusal to sell online, that is the real engine. The $8 billion is not in the steel and gold. It is in the silence of the website that offers nothing for sale. The silence of that empty website is louder than any advertisement. If this perspective speaks to you, subscribe before you leave. There is more to unfold in the coming chapters. And drop a single word in the comments that sums up what you are taking from this story. Silence, absence, or patience. The forward reference here is important. In the next chapter, we will examine how other brands have tried to replicate this model and why most have failed because they misunderstood the foundation. Rolex is foundation-owned, which allows it to ignore growth pressure. Imitators are shareholder-owned and cannot resist the temptation of a click. The difference in structure creates an unbridgeable gap. Now, the reflection. You have seen the visible myth of a digital avoiding dinosaur. You have peeled through 3 layers of evidence. The $8 billion valuation, the foundation ownership, the active suppression of online sales, the booming certified pre-owned program, the secondary market indifference. The story is not about a company that refuses to change. It is about a company that has engineered a system where change would destroy the value they have built for over a century. The final sensory image belongs to the watch itself. The second hand sweeps without a tremor across a dial that cost more to develop than many cars. The patina will form over years, not because the owner neglected it, but because they wore it. There is no pixel involved. There is only metal, spring, and the human story of the person who eventually owned it. If this resonance calls to you, there is a place among the circle that honors it. Step inside the atelier. There is no grand secret behind the refusal, no hidden vault of forbidden knowledge. The truth is simpler and more unsettling than any conspiracy. Rolex has discovered that the most valuable thing a luxury brand can sell is not a watch, but the experience of wanting one. The wanting, the waiting, the ritual of approach. That is the product they have perfected for over a century. Every empty display case is a silent advertisement. Every unanswered inquiry is a filter that preserves the brand's meaning. The person who walks away frustrated was never their customer. The person who persists, who learns the system, who finally places the watch on their wrist, understands that the purchase was never the point. The point was the journey that brought them there. This is the invisible architecture behind the $8 billion brand. Not technology, not convenience, not innovation in the way the modern world defines it, but a deep, almost ancient understanding that value is not created by abundance. It is created by absence. The refusal to sell online is not a weakness. It is the strongest statement a brand can make in an age of instant gratification. Some things are still worth the wait. The crown does not turn for everyone. The dial does not reveal its secrets to the browser. And the second hand sweeps not for the algorithm, but for the one who earned the right to watch it.